we need to do is to define what a synopsis is. Again, we define what a synopsis is, and then after that, we would look at some basic rules of writing synopsis. So a synopsis, as we said, is a brief summary or general survey of something. Second definition, it is an outline of a plot of a play, film, or book. Sorry, we have two teachers today. My little boy is here trying to teach with me, in case you hear his voice. So we have an outline of a play. When do you need to write a synopsis? I said, okay, Felipe is here. I said, if you want to write a synopsis, it is because you want to submit your non-fiction manuscript to publishers or to agents that will connect you to publishers. So you need to write a synopsis. Secondly, if you are a freelance writer, you need to write a synopsis because the synopsis will help you to have an outline or a skeleton of what you're writing about. And then again, we said if you want to write a synopsis, it is because it gives you an outline. Okay, Felipe is in. It gives you an outline or a template from which you can write your book. Now, what are the rules of writing synopsis? We said it should be short and precise. It should be in third person present tense, and your synopsis should contain the main points of your book. It should be written before you begin the book or after writing the book. It should be in the same tone as your book. What are the steps? Step 1, write about the benefits of reading your book. Promise the readers what they will benefit or which of their problems will be solved when they read your book. So you write that in the synopsis. And then step 2, write as an expert or an authority in that field, okay? And then step 3, write a short paragraph for every chapter in the book, describing the content, the purpose, and reader benefits. Now remember, this course is majorly for non-fiction writing, okay? So the third rule, step number 3, writing a paragraph for every chapter, is majorly for non-fiction writers. But if you are a fiction writer, you can still write a short paragraph for each chapter of your book, but you're not going to title it chapter 1 synopsis, chapter 2 synopsis. You just write paragraphs, but each of those paragraphs would represent what you want to have in the book, you know, chapter by chapter, but you're not going to demarcate it like for non-fiction. I'll show you an example of non-fiction synopsis and a synopsis from fiction. Now, if you are writing a synopsis, okay, now this is actually for non-fiction, for fiction synopsis. Now, what I want to show you now is for fiction synopsis, but it might take, okay, let's do it. So if you're writing your synopsis for a fiction writer, focus on your protagonist. Now, who is your protagonist? The main character, okay, in your story. We said for non-fiction, you are not writing a story, but for fiction, you are telling a story that is, that is not true, that didn't happen, okay? It's just fiction. And in every story, there is a protagonist. So if you are writing fiction, in your synopsis, you want to focus on your protagonist, the main character, the motivation or the goal of your protagonist. So your protagonist is the main person in the story. For example, if you're writing a book about a university student, if that story is about a university student, he is the protagonist, okay? So you have to identify the protagonist in your synopsis when you are writing. And then the same rule applies, the second rule, write in third person present tense, which is the same rule that applies for non-fiction also. Write in third person present tense. The third thing you need to know is you must describe in your synopsis what we call inciting incidents. Now, if you are a fiction writer, pay attention. For non-fiction writer, this might not interest you, but just know it for knowledge sake, okay? So if you are a fiction writer, the third thing you need to know in your synopsis is that you must describe what we call inciting incidents, rising action, climax, and resolution. Now, I'm going to define each of these terms for you so that you know what it means. And then the fourth thing is make it brief and straight to the point. So, Felipe, I know you are writing fiction. So, first thing you need to do, identify your protagonist in your synopsis. Who is the story about? We want to know. The write in third person present tense. Describe the inciting incident, rising action, climax, and resolution. So I will show you what these terms mean. Number 4, make it brief and straight to the point. Now, what is inciting incident? The inciting incident of a story is the event that sets the main character or characters on the journey. Now, that journey will occupy them throughout the narrative. So you are telling a story of a university student, for example, who wants to maybe travel to the United States to study, okay? Maybe he's from Nigeria and he wants to travel to the United States to study. So he is the main character of the story that you're talking about. Or let's say you're talking about a young man who maybe just fell in love with a lady and is planning to get married to that lady. But the man is the main character of the story. Now, what is the inciting incident? Anything that happens, okay, any event that happens that starts the story, that makes the story, more, the main thing, the main idea that will make the story interesting. For example, what is the goal? This guy wants to get married to a lady that he saw and that he loves, okay? Now, that event that will provoke that story, the first thing that happens in the journey, the destination is to get married, but what is the first thing that happens in that journey? It is called the inciting incident. For example, maybe he went to an eatery or a restaurant and saw the lady in the restaurant and he couldn't take his eyes off that lady. So at that point, the journey begins. So that is what we call the inciting incident. If you're writing your synopsis, you want to mention the inciting incident. I will show you an example here, okay? Now, let's move to the next page. So inciting incident, another definition, it is an inciting incident in a plot is that point at the beginning of a play or storybook or film that disturbs the actions, okay, of a protagonist and sets him to pursue the mission vigorously. So what happens? The guy is living his normal life and one day he saw a lady, at a restaurant. So that event of seeing that lady starts a journey for him. And that journey destination is marriage. So that event is called inciting incident. So you must include that in your non-fiction writing. Then we have what we call the conflict. So what is conflict? Conflict is a struggle between opposing forces that drives the action of the story. What does this mean? It means that this guy is in love with this girl, but somewhere along the line, he saw another girl. So there is a conflict between whether should I marry this one or should I marry this one. So that struggle between two opposing forces in your story is called conflict, okay? Now, we have what we call rising action. I'm rushing this because it's just for Felipe alone. I'm sure I'll have a private time with him to explain further. I really want us to go and analyze some synopsis. Now, rising action, the portion of the story where the conflict increases. So there is a conflict. The conflict is that this guy wants to marry this person, he wants to marry this person, but something will happen in the story that will make the story more interesting, right? That will kind of make the conflict increase. Something happens that is making him fall in love so much with this new girl more than the old girl. So that is called the rising action. Then all of this rising action is moving toward the climax. So the climax is the most interesting part, of the story. What everybody's waiting to see. the main event. What is the main event? Marriage. They want to get to marriage. So that is the climax of the story. It is the highest level of interest and emotional response in your story. You have to include that in your synopsis also. Now, let me show you an example of a climax. I'll read just one climax, an example. Number one, a little girl has been looking for her lost dog. Okay, she hears a bark coming from around the corner and she looks around to see. Now, if you are searching for a dog, that is a journey, for example, and then you hear the bark of a dog, all of your interest, so you are awake, you are alert at that time. Why? That point is the highest point. We want to know what happens next. Is that your dog or is that somebody else's dog? So that point is the climax of that story. Let me give you one more. Number two, Kevin has worked very hard to try out for the soccer team at school. So the coach has posted a list of this year's team members on his office door. So Kevin walks to the door to check the list if his name is there. So at that point of suspense, where you want to know what next is going to happen, is my name in the list or not? That is the climax of your story. You are writing a fiction. So in your whatever you are writing about, there's always a point that everybody is looking forward to. They want to know what will happen next. That is the climax of your story. Now, after the climax, we'll have what we call the falling action. So the falling action is the portion of the story where the conflict decreases. We've already seen that interesting part that we are looking for. What everybody is expecting has happened already. So maybe interest kind of decreases in that story. We don't really care what else will happen because we know the story is getting to an end already. So that falling action leads to what we call, somebody wrote, falling action. Yeah, this is fiction. Everything I'm talking about now is fiction. This point is fiction, okay? So falling action is for fiction writing. Everything I said just now is for fiction. So the falling action is, we've seen that most interesting part of the story, right? And so we are not really expecting so much again. We've seen the wedding has happened. What next is the honeymoon, right? So the excitement begins to decrease. That is what we call the falling action. And then at the end, we have what we call the resolution, which is like the end of your story. We call it the resolution. I'm going to show you one table. 1 minute. I'm going to show you one table. Falling action. Okay, good. So Felipe, pay attention to this because of your fiction writing. Okay, and everybody else, pay attention too, because just know it. You never know when you would need to write a fiction. Maybe in the future you might decide to write a fiction. Who knows? So the resolution is the outcome of the conflict, or it is the ending part of the story. So what do we have? Let me show you what we have. What I've just explained so far is this. I'm going to go on full screen. Good. So this is what I just explained. If you are writing your synopsis for fiction, we have what we call the exposition. This exposition is the introduction, where you introduce the protagonist. I told you that the first thing you want to do in your synopsis, if you're writing fiction, is to introduce the protagonist, the main character, the person, for whom the story is written, okay? So we call that the exposition or the introduction. So what do you do here? You introduce the characters. Now, in a story, you have more than one character, but you might not have the time, or you might not have the space to write about all the characters in your synopsis, because we said the synopsis has to be brief and straight to the point. So you only focus on your protagonist, who is the main character in the story, even though we have other characters, but focus on your protagonist at the beginning, okay? Now, this protagonist is living his normal life, and all of a sudden, something happened called the conflict. Or we could also call it the inciting incident. That is, there is now something happened that made this protagonist to be in a state of dilemma, and he needs to choose either between this or this. So that is what we call the conflict. There are two opposing forces he loves this lady, but all of a sudden he fell in love with another lady. So this event that happened incited something and led to a conflict. Okay, and then once we have the conflict leads to the rising action. So the rising action, we said, it is the point of the story where the conflict increases. So the conflict increases because this guy, for example, was transferred from where he was living to another state or another province where the new girlfriend is. Now, you know, the story will become more interesting because the original girlfriend is now left behind somewhere, and the guy has traveled to meet to the same state. He didn't plan it anyway, but circumstances made it happen that now he's in the same state with the new found love. So the story becomes more interesting. So that's what we call the rising action. And then from the rising action, everybody wants to know what will happen. Will he marry this new found love, or he would go back to, you know, the first love? Now we are looking to see what will happen. At that point where, for example, he now decides to marry the new girl or travel back to his old girlfriend, that is the climax, because we'll say that is the peak of action or the most interesting part. What we've all been waiting for is the climax. Now, once that happens, you already know that, okay, this other lady is forgotten already. He has already chosen this one. So the story, the interest begins to drop. So that is the falling action. And then at the end, we have the resolution, or the story comes to an end. Now, every story has these parts: exposition or introduction, the conflict or the inciting incident, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. All of these you need to include in your synopsis, because if I'm reading your synopsis, I want to know who is the protagonist. First thing. Second thing, I want to know, what is he doing? What's happened to him? Is he on a journey to Mars? Is he traveling somewhere? Is he looking for a new love? You know, so that's I want to see in your synopsis also, because that will determine whether I want to read your story or I don't want to read your story. So your first paragraph, if you are writing fiction, in your first paragraph, what should you write? I told you that you don't need to write chapter by chapter, okay? What you just do, just use paragraphs. But if you're writing non-fiction, you must write chapter by chapter. We have synopsis for chapter 1, for chapter 2, like that. But for fiction, instead of writing chapter 1 synopsis, you just write paragraphs. You don't need to even mention first paragraph, second paragraph, okay? As you're writing, we know when we see a paragraph, first paragraph, and when we see the second paragraph. So in your first paragraph, introduce the protagonist and the inciting incident. So this is a novel about a young man called Felipe. Felipe was in love with one woman, and when he traveled to the United States, he found another woman. Or Felipe is looking forward to gaining admission into Harvard. So in my introductory part of the synopsis, I have introduced that. First of all, don't forget, mention the genre of your book. So I said, this is a novel about a young man called Felipe. What are his motivations? What are his challenges? What are his goals? What is he looking for? Okay, I put that in the first paragraph. Then I mention the inciting incident, which is the problem or the challenge or the event that the protagonist is going to face on that journey. Okay, that is the first paragraph. In your second paragraph, you now talk about the rising action. So what happened? As Felipe was traveling to the United States, he saw a beautiful lady and something happened like that. So rising action, there's an increase in conflict. Okay. Third paragraph, you now write your climax and your resolution. So you tell us what happened at the end of the story and how the story ended. So first paragraph, beginning of your story, where you mention protagonist and what he's trying to achieve, and the inciting incident, what happened to change that thing that he was trying to achieve, or what challenge, what problem did he face along the way, and then the rising action, how did the story go, what happened that made him have more troubles or that made the story more interesting. And then we want to know the most interesting part of that story. And then you come down to the falling action, and then we have the resolution. This is all you need. So if you write 3 paragraphs, for example, Felipe, you can put everything in that 3 paragraphs. Okay, you don't need to write 10 chapters like non-fiction writers. Good. So now we are going to analyze some synopsis. We will start with analyzing the synopsis. Okay, let me see. Okay, let's start here. Because I taught fiction now, let's start with this synopsis. This is the fiction synopsis, and then after that, we will take a non-fiction synopsis. Now, this novel is titled Pride and Prejudice. Felipe, you'll be the one to read, okay? So quickly read this synopsis. Let's see if we can find the protagonist, the rising action, the climax, and all of that.
Okay, it's just that I have a problem right now. It's just that I don't have my computer.
Okay.
If you can give me 3 minutes, and
okay.
I will be on my computer. Just give me 3 minutes, okay?
Okay, no problem. Good. So for the rest of us who are not writing fiction, okay, just know this, okay, in case of tomorrow. I'm a non-fiction writer, but I'm thinking that in the future I might write fiction. So it's important that I have this knowledge and that you have this knowledge. You might decide to want to write fiction tomorrow. So pay attention to this. I take you back while we're waiting for Felipe to come. Introduction or exposition, conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. I think that anybody that wants to write a story or a novel or something or fiction writing needs to know all of these and then apply it when you are writing your synopsis. Because if you have a novel that is, let's say, 500 pages or 200 pages, no publisher will have the time to read everything in that material, whether to decide whether they will publish it for you or not. So what you need to do is to make it brief, straight to the point. Just mention the most important thing that we need in that story. Good. So let's go back to while we wait for Felipe to come. Let me refresh your mind for those of us writing non-fiction. Original slide. Yeah, for those of us writing non-fiction, we said that it should be short and precise. Don't forget the rules. Should be in third person present tense. Should contain the main points of your book. Should be written before you begin the book or after the writing of the book. Should be in the same tone as your book. Don't forget these 5 rules, because from next week, I will analyze your synopsis and I want to see these rules applied in the synopsis. The example of synopsis I sent to you on Google Class might be a bit longer than I expect you to write, because I did that because I'm a freelance writer and I need to convince my clients, I need to give them something that is intriguing so that we can strike a deal. So that synopsis might be a bit longer than it should be. But if you are writing yours, make it short and make it precise. Okay, Felipe, are you back? Are you ready? Okay, so steps to writing a synopsis. Write about the benefit, don't forget. Write as an expert, don't forget. Write a short paragraph for every chapter in the book, describing the content, the purpose, and the reader benefits. The easiest way to write a synopsis is to, first of all, have like a table of contents. Now, that table of content, you don't need to even have sub-chapters inside. Just have only the chapters. Imagine that you want to write a book about, let's take an example of Pastor Neron's book, Living Above Mediocrity, right? If I remember very well. Living Above Mediocrity. Am I right? I think I'm right. Living Above Mediocrity.
Yes, sir.
Yes. You know why I remember the title?
Why?
Who knows why I remember the title? Anybody? Why did I remember that title?
Because it's short.
Because it's short. Yeah, easy to remember. Yeah. There is another one, 365 ways to see the world. Yeah. Did I get that correctly? Rao.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Felipe's own was.
It's novel.
It's a novel, yeah? So yours has to do with sunsets.
Yeah, tired sunsets.
Tired sunsets. Tired sunsets. So I remember that. My wife's own, it's The Rebirth of Heroine. I think I got that correctly, yeah? And then Auntie Choma's own was How to, was it How to? How did I forget that? So, okay, let's see. Let's do a test. Who else remembers Auntie Choma's own?
I can't remember.
Okay, nobody can remember. Can anybody remember? It wasn't long. It was short. So why did we forget it? And I know we analyzed that one too that day. I know we said.
I think I remember that part where she wrote
economics, and we removed it. Yeah. Okay. So you see now why we said that the book title should be very short and easy to remember. But why did I forget? So maybe she would remind us.
She wrote it future proof.
Yeah, future proofs. Yes, future proofs. Why did I forget? Mine was future proof. Okay. It was I know why. I know why we forgot it. We paid more attention to the subtitle. Okay. We forgot about the title and we were talking about the subtitle of the book. We analyzed it for a long time. I said, but I'm changing the title this week. Okay, you want to change the title? Okay, good. We'll hear the new title soon. Okay, great. But future proof is good. I think it's not. We didn't forget it because it's long. We forgot it because we spent more time analyzing, talking about the subtitle of the book. So we forgot the title. Okay, so Felipe, you're ready, right?
Yeah, I'm ready, teacher.
Good. Now you're going to read, and I'm going to ask us to see if we can identify, especially you, if you can identify the protagonist, the conflict, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution in this synopsis you're going to read now.
Sure.
Okay, good. So let me go back to that screen. Where is it? Here. Okay. Share screen. Share screen. Share. Okay, so I'm going to resume slideshow. Okay, so this is an example of a fiction synopsis. Yeah, if you say it is just one page, right, just one page, so it is very short. But this was not written in paragraphs, but yours should be in paragraph. Mainly 3 paragraphs: the first, second, and the third. And I said the first paragraph introduced the protagonist and the inciting incidents. What events happened that provoked the journey? And then in your second paragraph, you want to talk about the climax, the conflict, okay? Talk about the conflict. You can introduce other characters in the second paragraph. Then in the last paragraph, you talk about the climax and the resolution, okay? Good. So now, read. I don't know if you can see the whole screen. Is anything blocking the screen?
No, I can see this.
You can see everything, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jens Austen's 1813 romantic novel, Pride and Prejudice, follows Elizabeth, the second eldest of the 5 Bennet sisters, known for her wit and intelligence.
Okay, hold it there. Hold it there.
Yeah.
Now, what did you notice from this introductory paragraph? Did they mention the genre of the book?
Yeah, it's a novel, a romantic novel.
Good. They said it's a romantic novel, so they mentioned it. And then they mentioned the title. Did they mention the protagonist?
Yeah, which is Elizabeth.
Are you sure?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Well, it's the Elizabeth,
good.
yeah.
Elizabeth, okay, good. Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, okay. The Bennet...
But did they mention, sorry, did they mention the character or the traits or the motivation? Did they say anything about the protagonist apart from the name?
They're like giving like, like the familiar branch, or in this case, like, like family details that she has.
Did they talk about her intelligence and her wisdom?
Yeah, only like, details about her.
Good. Okay, so you have to do that in your own story. The protagonist, you must talk about the traits of that protagonist in the first paragraph. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. The Bennets live comfortably in the English countryside, but there is one big problem. Since Mr. Bennet's estate can only be passed down to a male heir, it's imperative that at least one sister marry before their father dies.
Now, hold it there.
Okay.
Have we found a conflict now or an inciting incident?
Yeah. The problem here is that Mr. Bennet's estates, can be only inherited to, a male heir.
Great. So now we find that there is a conflict or an inciting incident there. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Things get complicated when Mr. Bingley, a wealthy bachelor, moves into a town and appears to take an interest in Jane, the eldest Bennet sister.
Hold it there.
Okay. Yeah.
What do you think? Things get complicated when something happens. What do you think that is?
That's the climax, I think.
No, we have not reached the climax. No.
Okay, like the
climax is the most interesting part. What happened here now is something that will make the conflict, that will increase the conflict.
Okay.
That should be rising action.
Rising action. But it's part of the conflict, right?
Sorry? Now, the rising action, listen, the rising action makes the conflict, okay? Make the conflict more interesting, make it more interesting, or increases the conflict, or increases the inciting incident. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the friendly Mr. Bingley stands in contrast to his even wealthier friend Mr. Darcy, who snubs Elizabeth, earning snobbishness, or forgive my English again, that is seemingly confirmed when he later encourages Mr. Bingley, okay, from proposing to Jane, okay?
Okay.
Meanwhile, Bingley isn't the only man with desires for the Bennet sisters. As they navigate proposals, friendship, and family, both Jane and Mr. Darcy begin to realize that they may have judged one another too harshly. Eventually, Darcy marries Elizabeth and Bingley marries Jane.
So, what is this last part that happened here? Eventually,
the resolution.
Okay, so no.
Darcy marries Elizabeth, and
that's the climax.
This is the climax.
Yeah.
This is the climax because we didn't know who will marry who, so we were all expecting to see who will marry who, right? And then eventually, so that eventually there is what we've all been waiting for. That is the climax. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever happens next after this marriage is no longer that interesting. So it becomes the falling action, and then you'll finish the story. You could tell us that maybe Darcy and Elizabeth traveled to Dubai for honeymoon, and then Bingley and Jane went to the Bahamas for honeymoon and they got pregnant and had 2 children. But we're not interested in that. That is not the interesting part of the story anymore. So it will become the falling action and the resolution, and then the story comes to an end. Do you understand it, Felipe?
Eventually, yeah. For example, here, eventually Darcy marries Elizabeth and Bingley marries Jane, and that will be
that will be what?
The resolution.
That's the climax.
No, that is the
climax. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It will be the climax. Now,
all right.
Remember that the climax is the most interesting part. That is the part that everybody wants to see. Okay. I saw that Raul wants to say something. Raul.
Let me see if I understand what you said, teacher. That first we have like the introduction, right? That we introduce the main character, the protagonist. Then we have like the conflict, the main conflict that arises. Then we like try to give that transition to the
so the rising action
climax. Yeah, sorry. Climax. We develop like something that change or make it more interesting the problem. And we have the climax, and then we have the resolution, right?
Falling action.
I didn't get where was the falling action. Sorry, teacher.
So good. So the falling action is the part of the story that leads to the end of the story. After the climax, whatever happens after the climax, it is not so interesting anymore. There is no anticipation. There is no suspense anymore. The suspense we were hoping to see, we eventually saw it at the climax. And so once that climax happens, we are not expecting so much from the story anymore. So whatever happens after the climax becomes the falling action. For example, in this story, after this marriage, we're not really interested in what happens again. So the falling action could be that they now travel to Dubai and the Bahamas for honeymoon. And then after 1 year or 2 years, each of these ladies got pregnant and had a child. And, so somehow you end the story there. You have the resolution. Quickly, I'm going to take you back to this picture. So everybody look at this picture again. We said the introduction or the exposition, you introduce the protagonist, okay? And the character or the goals or the motivation, the purpose, the dream, what the guy wants to achieve in life. And then all of a sudden, there is an inciting incident. Something happens. And that thing that happens now creates a conflict, okay? And then that conflict becomes more or increases when something else happens. So that thing that happens again that increases the conflict, it's called the rising action. So in that rising action, we are full of suspense. We don't know what else will happen. We don't know what decision this protagonist will make. We don't know what will happen. So we are all expecting to see what will happen at the end. And then we get to the climax where an action takes place and all our doubts and suspense is satisfied. Okay? And once our suspense is satisfied, it's like you just breathe, because now you've seen what you are expecting to see. Or maybe that climax might not satisfy your expectation. It might not be in line with your expectation. But the bottom line is, you are no longer in suspense. You have seen what eventually happened. Now, after that event happens, which is climax, any other thing that happens is called the falling action, because it's no longer as interesting as it used to be. So the anxiety, the suspense, everything decreases until the story finally comes to an end, which is the resolution. Okay? Now, in some stories, you might confuse the you might confuse the climax with the resolution, because here, this picture says the resolution is the outcome of the conflict, okay? Now, but if we take climax as the most interesting part, then in that story that we read, the most interesting part is to see who marries who. That is the most interesting part. That cannot be the end, the climax. So once we see who marries who, the story will not end at that wedding. Something else will happen again after the wedding that will eventually lead to the end of the story, which we'll now call the resolution. Okay, but this is just one example of the story. But the point I want you to know really from this is that your synopsis should contain your exposition or your introduction, where you talk about the protagonist and you introduce the conflict. Okay, and then in your second paragraph, you talk about the rising action. In your last paragraph, you talk about the climax, falling action, and the resolution. Is it clear now, or you still have a question?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For example, in the in the synopsis that you gave to us, that one,
Yeah.
they are not giving us the resolution. So that's a different synopsis, right?
The one I posted on the Google class.
No, this one that you are showing right now on the screen.
Yeah.
They are not giving us the resolution. They are just like introducing the story, and they're just like giving the climax.
Yeah.
What's the difference? I remember that you told us that, for example, when we are going to sell our, in this case, my novel, I have to make two synopses. One for the, for the general public, and the other one for the publisher. Is it true, teacher? So this one is going to be just to give us like the most important details of the story.
Okay, good. This particular synopsis here, right, is not the synopsis that you will write before you write the book. For fiction, right? This is not what you want to write before you write the book, because your synopsis you will write before you write the book should be more detailed. I told you that is for you. Nobody needs to see it. Okay. You want to know that.
Okay.
I'm writing this in chapter 1. You cannot write that synopsis in 3 paragraphs. The one you will have for yourself, you keep for yourself, that will guide you, okay, to write your whole story in the book, cannot just be 3 paragraphs only. This one might be good for a publisher, because the publisher just want to see your storyline, what your story is about. So this one might be good to give to a publisher, but if you want to write the one for yourself that will be your outline for the book, then this will not be enough. I don't know how many chapters you want to be in your book, but assuming you have 10 chapters you want to be in your book, have 10 paragraphs, 1 paragraph for each chapter, but don't title it paragraph for chapter 1 synopsis, chapter 2 synopsis. Just write what chapter 1 story is about, what chapter 2 is about, but use paragraphs to write it. That is for you, for fiction.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Okay, teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, it is clear. It is clear, teacher.
Okay, good. So now this is fiction. Let's go to non-fiction, which I think is more difficult to write. This, you can easily tell the story of what is happening here in this synopsis, right? But for non-fiction, you are not telling the story like this. So I want to take you to, let me see. I want to show you the synopsis I sent to you. 1 minute. The synopsis I sent to your Google class. We're going to analyze this synopsis. The title of the book is Befriending Adversity. Befriending Adversity. Let me put it in one page view. Okay. So tell me when you can see my screen. Befriending Adversity. Okay, can you see my screen now? If you can see my screen, let me know.
Yes.
Good. So we will analyze this synopsis. I'm assuming that you didn't read it when I posted it on that Google class. So we will read it together. And first of all, I told you that the easiest way to write a synopsis is to first have a table of content like this, where you know what you want to write about in each chapter. You might not necessarily have these other sub chapters here, just the chapter 5. You are not an island. Chapter 6, first things first. Chapter 7, you are not a victim. Okay? So we will read this one, and then I will pick one of your books and we'll try to create an outline and write a synopsis for it. Okay. Felipe, I'm going to use you again to read this chapter 1 synopsis.
All right. Yeah, chapter 1, adversity is part of life. While it is true that people often shrink away from adversity, difficulties, and life's challenges, and often wish that life is completely void of them, the author in the opening chapter of this book asserts that whether we like it or not, adversity is part of life, and that everyone will at some point in their lives have a share of it, whether in their business or daily life. Okay, next one. She further states that it doesn't matter our financial status, political affiliation, religion, race, or nationality. We would one day come face to face with adversity, and that earlier we realize that and prepare for it. The much easier we will be able to handle and overcome it when it comes. She says that cultivating the mindset that accepts that no matter how superhuman we are, we will not have the control over everything is key to overcoming adversity and challenges. Okay, next one. Yeah, using her story to buttress her points, she explains how accepting that adversity is normal and part of life helped her a lot in her entrepreneurial and parenting journey. Okay, next one. As with the butterfly, adversity is necessary to build character in people. Joseph B. Weirdland. Okay, next one. Okay, one question that we must seek to answer is the question of why adversity. Why can we live a life void of challenges? To answer this question, the author outlines three advantages of adversity and argues that until we understand these advantages, we would have a hard time handling adversity. Number one, adversity helps us develop a range problem-solving skills that are helpful in other areas of our lives. Second one, adversity helps us discover our true strength. And third one, adversity often points us to our life purpose and calling. Okay, it says challenge and adversity are meant to help you know who you are. The storms hit your weakness, but unlock your true strength. Roy T. Bennett. Furthermore, the author explains how adversity enables us to build a new mindset and develop character. She says that our character, though determined by genes, is also influenced by our environment and life experiences, such as challenges, adversity, and prior circumstances. Such character traits eventually become the strong foundation upon which we build successful businesses and life endeavors. He knows not his own strength that had not met adversity. Cesar Pavis, okay, yeah. In addition to the aforementioned ideas, this chapter also explains using the author's personal experience and that of Helen Keller how adversity challenged our lives and how we can focus on the proper use of time to create a lasting impact in the life of others and society at large instead of focusing on our challenges and adversities.
Good. So now, what did you notice from this chapter 1 synopsis? What was the tense of this synopsis? I said you must write your synopsis
Well,
in tense, third person, present tense, right?
yeah.
Good. So did we see that in this sentence, in this synopsis? So let's see if she used third person present tense. Here I can see she further states. She, third person, she further states. Even though you are the author, right? I said, don't say I further stated. No. She further states, or he further states. Even though you are the one writing the synopsis and you are the author, write it as if it was someone else. If you are a guy, use he further states. If you are a lady, she further states. So she, third person, he, third person, states, present tense. Okay, so and she did it all through the synopsis, this chapter that we read now. Now you will notice that she started this synopsis by saying something about adversity. Okay, because I told you that in your synopsis you want to outline the benefits that people will get, okay, from the book. And we see in this book that there was a place she stated how to overcome adversity, what you need to do to overcome adversity. She said here, or the advantages of adversity. And she said that we must develop a mindset, and that mindset can help us overcome adversity. Now, I told you this is a bit long because I wanted to, impress that client so we could strike a deal. But if you are writing your own, and I'll tell you why this is long. Let me tell you why this is long. I wrote on each subtitle. Let me show you. Go back to the table of contents. In chapter 1, you will see, good. In chapter 1, you see the first thing is building a mindset and character development, how adversity changed my life, focusing on time and impact. So I wrote on each of these subtitles in the synopsis. But if you want to write your synopsis, you necessarily don't have to write on each of these. Just pick adversity is part of life. And say, in this chapter, the author explains that no matter what we go through in life, we would one day face adversity. Furthermore, she states that if we develop the right mindset, we would be able to overcome adversity. Finish. You don't need to write it as long as I wrote this one. Okay? Now let's go to chapter 2. Look at chapter 2. Chapter 2 is attitude is everything. Now you don't need to write on each of these subtitles. Just write on attitude is everything. Okay? Now let's go to chapter 2 and see what is there. So in chapter 2, while most people lament, lose faith, give up, and resort to a life of self-pity and mediocrity in times of adversity, the author believes, third person present tense, that the effect adversity has on our life and business is dependent on our attitude to it. In this chapter, the author explains why maintaining a positive attitude in times of adversity is a key factor in overcoming adversity and building a successful business and life, nevertheless. So here we see your synopsis can end here. Now, when I say the author further states, what I'm doing is that I'm writing on the subtitle, each of the subtitles. Okay, so when you are writing yours, you necessarily don't have to, write it this way, because your book might not have 3 subtitles under each chapter. Yours might have only 2 subtitles. Yours might only have a chapter without a subtitle. Okay, but almost all the books that I've written, I try to get a chapter with 3 subtitles. Okay, good. The author further states that achieving a positive mental attitude, both in business, life, and family, takes practice and doesn't just happen suddenly. She says one has to consciously cultivate a positive attitude if one must overcome adversity and become successful in life. So she has given a solution. What is the benefit? Consciously cultivate a positive attitude and you will be able to overcome adversity. So the same thing. If you go down to chapter 3, the same format. What is the title? Knowing your why. The reason a lot of people fail and give up in time of adversity is a lack of clarity of purpose. They don't know their life's purpose. While it is true that we all face challenges and difficult circumstances, those who know the why behind their dreams and ambitions focus on it and stay motivated to succeed despite the adversity that surrounds them. Okay, in this chapter, the author explains how she became a successful entrepreneur and politician despite being a mother to special needs children. She says the secret is clarity of purpose. So how did she become a successful businesswoman and politician? Because of clarity of purpose and a constant reminder of her original motive. So you can go on and on. In addition to that, if we could clarify our vision, so the same thing, the same pattern you wrote in chapter 1, you write in chapter 2 like that. Now in chapter 4. In this chapter, the author stresses the need to have the right association. Why? Because the chapter is about association. Okay? So they need to have the right association as a prerequisite to overcoming adversity and succeeding in business and life in general. She says that one strategy that has been quite useful for her is surrounding herself with the right people. And so on. You move to chapter 4, chapter 5 is the same thing. The same thing. So that is how you write a synopsis. Make it short. Let me read chapter 5. One common mistake people often make is thinking that they can become successful entrepreneurs by themselves. The author refutes that. The author refutes that ideology in this chapter and argues that no man can succeed all by himself because no man is an island. If we need people to succeed under normal circumstances, how much more in times of adversity? No matter how smart you think you are, you need a partner or team if you want to build a successful business. Yeah, so the same thing continues throughout each of these, chapters.
Sorry, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Rawal asked the question.
Okay, let me see. I wasn't looking at the chat. How come mine was forgotten? Mine was forgotten. Okay, no, we didn't forget yours. We remembered yours. Okay.
He said, is it still synopsis?
Is that still part of the synopsis? What I'm reading now? Yeah.
That's what Rawal asked.
Yeah. So yeah, it is a synopsis. This is the synopsis. So if you are writing 10 chapters, you write for each chapter, you write a short paragraph explaining what you are going to write in that chapter or what you wrote in that chapter. But like I said, make it brief. It shouldn't be as long as mine. So what we are going to do now, we will take maybe like 2 people's books here, right? And we will try to create a table of content, and write a short synopsis. We'll do maybe just chapter 1 for each person's book to show you how you can do it yourself. Okay? So let's start with Mr. Power's book. We didn't forget your book, so let's start with your book. Now, your book was talking about you are not too young and you are not too old to maybe live your life or live your dreams. Yeah. So tell us, Mr. Power, again. We're going to do this together, everybody. Let me read the comments. 1 minute. This is the pre-writing synopsis only for you. Okay, so Felipe is writing. Now, this synopsis that you're writing is for you. This one I just read now is for you, because you see that it is taking chapter by chapter what you want to include in the book. So this synopsis is for you. But if you are a freelance writer and you have a client, you can send this synopsis to your client also. Okay. Now, if you want to become an author and you need a publisher, because I wrote this one in such a way that it gives details. So it is possible to even use this one also to give, I can give this one to a publisher too, if I want to, because I went in details much more than I said you should do. Okay, so I can actually give this one to a publisher. Once they read it, they already know what the book is about, and they want to read the entire book. I told you the last time that when the owner of this book read the synopsis, she was blown away. She started feeling like this is the book, this is the real book, even though it was just 22 pages. But the whole book is 160 pages thereabout, or 200 pages for the whole book when we eventually finish the book. So what do we need to do? Let's take Mr. Power's book, right? Let's try and create a synopsis. This is your guideline to the main book. Yeah, okay, good. Now, let's take Mr. Power's book and try to create a synopsis with it. I'll take each person's book. We will try to create just chapter 1 of your synopsis so that you know how to do it by yourself. So, Mr. Power, over to you. Tell us the title of the book. Only one. Pick just one book. Tell us the title of the book, and we will create table of contents and show you how to write your synopsis.
Okay, I've got two. I don't know which one I'm going to start with.
Yeah, choose one.
Okay, let's go for Never Too Young.
Okay.
To become.
Yeah, Felipe.
Never too young to become.
Okay, Felipe, are you there? Is Felipe still there? Okay, Rao.
Here I am, teacher.
Do you have MS Word? I want you, if you can share your screen. If you're using a computer, are you using a computer?
No, I'm not.
You're using a phone. Okay, I wanted somebody to be able to type and share their screen so that we will all see what we're writing. But maybe I will have to do it. I wanted someone else to do it. So tell us the title of the book again.
Never Too Young to Become.
Never Too Young to Become.
Yeah, the subtitle. I'll still contemplating on using.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the subtitle. Let's just. Yeah. This is just an example. Just an example.
Never too young to become. To become.
That is the title. Become.
Never too young to become. Yeah, to become.
To become.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a book title. Now, you told us last week that this book you want to encourage young people, right, to become successful or something, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So let's imagine that in chapter 1 of this book, let's create chapter 1. What is going to be in chapter 1 of this book? Let's assume, or do you have something in mind you want to put in chapter 1?
Yeah, actually, it's the mindset I intend to work on.
The mindset in chapter 1.
Yeah. Maturity is of the mind and not of age.
Okay. Maturity is of the mind. I wanted somebody else that knows how to type faster to do this. Okay, maturity is of the mind. Do you have something for chapter 2? What you want to put in chapter 2?
You are your only limitation.
Okay, good. Chapter 2. You are your only limitation.
Number 3 goes with I'm just trying to work out something. You are your only competitor. Or I'm going to rephrase it. All right. The next one will be discovering your purpose.
Okay. So you want to talk about discovering your purpose, yeah, in chapter 3?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. After limitation, yeah. Then it will be, purpose, yes.
Okay. So chapter 3. So now we have chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. discovering your purpose. Now, later, you're going to break each of these chapters into 3 or 2 sub chapters if you want. But when I write, I usually break into 3 sub chapters.
Okay.
But it depends on you. So now let's assume we want to start with your synopsis, chapter 1 synopsis. So now we have synopsis, chapter by chapter synopsis.
Okay.
Chapter 1. So what do? We have the title, Maturity is of the Mind. So now you already told us that in this chapter, you want to work on their mindset, okay?
Yeah.
You want to work on their mindset. So you would say something, about maturity or about mindset, okay?
Okay.
So what do? Let's start like this. I'm going to start by saying that while most people, bring this down to 16, Palatino 16. Okay. Now, I just want to show you how to write the synopsis, okay?
All right.
Chapter 1. While most people believe that one has to become 40 years of age before ever achieving success in life, while most people believe that one has to become 40 years of age before ever achieving success in life, the author argues
All right.
in this chapter, that such a mindset will only lead to failure. He believes that age is only a number. He believes that age is only a number and that anyone can achieve whatever they want to achieve, whatever they want to achieve if they cultivate a mindset that propels success. Anyone can achieve whatever they want to achieve if they cultivate a mindset that propels success. Furthermore, the author states that each of us, or the author states that it is possible to become successful if we imbibe the mindset of successful people, even at young age. In closing this chapter, the author listed 3 practical ways of cultivating a mature and success-driven mindset. You've written chapter 1 synopsis already. So this could be your chapter 1 synopsis. So you know what you are writing in this chapter 1. You want to talk about it is not by age that you become successful.
That's correct.
So while most people believe that one has to become 40 years of age before ever achieving success in life, the author argues in this chapter that such a mindset will only lead to failure. He believes that age is only a number and that anyone can achieve whatever they want to achieve if they cultivate a mindset that propels success. Furthermore, the author states that it is possible to become successful if we imbibe the mindset of successful people even at young age. In closing this chapter, the author listed 3 practical ways of cultivating a mature and success-driven. I'm going to do all this correction later, okay? On success-driven mindset. That is it. You've written chapter 1. The same thing you can do for chapter 2. You're the only limitation. Now, you can decide to get a quote, okay? Any quote that talks about you are not too young to become successful, or any quote that talks about mindset. The outcome of your life depends on your mindset. So you put it here to buttress your point, and you are done with chapter 1. You go to chapter 2, you do the same thing. That is it.
Okay.
Is it difficult?
No, not at all. I don't think so.
Oh, this is great.
I think I'm good. I'm good to go.
You're good to go. Yeah. So that is how you write. That is how you write. The same thing you apply to chapter 1, you apply to chapter 2, you apply to chapter 3, like that.
Okay.
Chapter 4, and so on. Okay, good. Is anybody confused about the method that I use now? Please, if you are confused, let me know. Write in the comment section. If there's something that is not clear that I need to explain, I can do it before I move to the next book. Okay, so I think it is clear. Yeah, Raul, is it okay for you?
I just have one doubt, teacher. What I'm a little bit confused in this part. I don't know why, but I don't know how to divide each chapter.
Okay.
Or how am I going to divide the chapters, because I don't know. That's what I don't get.
Okay.
Yet.
So how to divide each chapter. Now, let me show you an example. Yeah. Look at this chapter 1 now, everybody. Maturity is of the mind. Imagine I want to put a sub-chapter here. Look at what I'm going to do now. Maturity is of the mind. So I can put a sub-chapter that says age is just a number. Age is just a number. Let me see. Number. So what I've done, I've created one subtitle, which is age is just a number. Why? Because I'm talking about maturity is of the mind. So I have to think, what can I put in this place? So I say age is just a number. Number 2, mindset is all that matters. Chapter 3, the success story of Michael Jackson, for example.
Okay.
Because Michael Jackson became a successful musician from a very young age.
Okay.
So I can use his story to tell people that maturity is of the mind. Now, watch this. If you look at the synopsis that I just wrote now, I already talked about age is just a number.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you saw that when I was writing that synopsis. I already talked about it. I already talked about the mindset is all that matters.
That's correct, yeah.
The only thing I didn't talk about is the story of Michael Jackson. So now I can go to this synopsis and say something like, watch, I can go to this synopsis and say something like, including this chapter, the author listed 3 practical ways of cultivating a mature and success-driven mindset and used the story of Michael Jackson. The story of Michael Jackson to buttress why anybody, irrespective of their age can succeed if they cultivate the right mindset. We're done. So I've explained your whole chapter 1 now. So when you are writing the book, when you start writing the book, what do? This place where we said that age is just a number, here, the only thing we wrote is just one small paragraph. But you now need to expand it. You need to, for example, while most people believe that one has to, so you have to expand all of this, talk about, reasons why you think that age is just a number. Argue, give an argument of why you think that. You can give examples of people who succeeded at an early age, and you can even argue that if success is dependent on age, why are there so many people who are 50, 60 years old that are mediocre, that have not achieved anything in life?
Beautiful.
You put it in your argument.
Yeah.
So that's it. I told you the last time that book writing is brain work. You need to think around the subject. Don't limit yourself. Go wide. Now, I just thought about people who are 50 and 50 years old. Okay, we say they are matured according to age, but they've not achieved anything. You know what I'm talking about? Why somebody like Malala, a little girl in Pakistan, has become a famous and successful lady. So that is how you write. You now expand this. Then this second paragraph, you now talk about mindset, because we said if we can imbibe the mindset of successful people at young age, we can succeed. We can even talk to parents in this second place, telling parents to introduce their children to books of successful people, to teach them how to cultivate that matured mindset. Yeah, so just like that. Before you know it, you have 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, and before you know, you have your whole book. Good. Wow. So if that, I'm sure that is clear, right? Everybody, is it clear? Good. If you come to you are your only limitation, right? We can create a subtitle, for example. Let's say, now most
I think you should look at Rawal
comments or his book, yeah? Did you say I should look at Rawal's book? Okay, so Rawal, let's take your book now. I think Mr. Michael knows what to do from here. So I did chapter 1, 2, 3. You can create more up to 10 and put subtitles in each of them and write about them. Okay. So Raul, let's take your book. Give us your book title again. Let's work on it.
My book title?
Yeah, your book title.
Okay. It's 365 ways to see the world.
Remember, I gave you the rule. Don't capitalize prepositions. To see the world. 365 ways to see the world. So let's take this as your title. Good. So what would you like to put in chapter 1 of your book?
In chapter 1, I would like to explain about what do I think about reality? What does reality is?
Okay. What is your reality? Right?
Yeah.
Let's take that. Okay, good. What do you want to put in chapter 2?
How can we change our reality or take control of our reality?
Okay. Taking control of your reality. Okay. You have chapter 3.
And chapter 3, I think that I can introduce some steps to start changing our mindset.
Good. Steps Steps to changing your mindset. Chapter 3. Steps.
Oh, teacher, I don't know, what do you think about try to give them like a context in how like the brain works in order
How
they
the
can
brain works, yeah? The brain. Beautiful.
the brain, yeah.
Beautiful.
And well, in
Very beautiful idea. Let's see, what is your reality? Taking control of your reality. Okay. Steps to changing your mindset. Chapter 4. The power of your brain.
yeah.
Good. So now we have 4 chapters, right? So now we need to talk about each of them. We need to write a synopsis. So let's pick chapter 1. Chapter 1. Put it here in the middle. Good, chapter 1. So now, even though we don't have a synopsis, we don't have a sub chapter, let's try to write something about what is your reality. I'm going to start this way. Just an example to show you how to write your synopsis. We live in a world full of activities, challenges, good times, and bad times. Let's put this here, right there. So color synopsis 10. Okay. So we live in a world full of activities, good times, and bad times, etc. Right? Most people often cannot differentiate their reality from that of others.
Okay.
As a result, they just follow the trend. As a result, they just follow the trend and do what everyone else is doing. In this chapter, the author explains that it is a wrong way of life to just follow the crowd. So just follow the crowd. Now, I don't have the full picture of your book, but I'm trying to just create something for you, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I get the full story of your book, I'll write better. But the point is just to show you how to do it, okay? So in this chapter, the author explains that it is a wrong way of life to just follow the crowd. He argues that following the crowd instead of creating our own reality, will only lead us to a wrong destination. Instead of our predestined purpose. So following the crowd, okay, instead of creating our own reality, will only lead to a wrong destination instead of our predestined purpose. Furthermore, he states that the easiest way to overcome life's challenges The easiest way to overcome life's challenges and achieve success amidst the troubles of life is to first define what our reality is. Good. Furthermore, he states that the easiest way to overcome life challenges and achieve success amid the troubles of life is to first define what our reality or what each person's reality is. He concluded this chapter, or he brought the chapter to a close by listing 5 ways through which each person can create their own reality. Yeah, we're done with chapter 1 synopsis. So I just created these things in my head, yeah, but you know what you want to write. But the idea is just know the pattern. So what have we done? We have created chapter 1 synopsis for you. What did we do? We used third person present tense. We identified that there is a problem, and the problem is that some people just follow the crowd, you know, and they don't have their own reality. They want to do what everybody else is doing. And the second, you said that if we want to overcome the challenges of life, we must learn to create our own reality and live our own reality instead of just following the crowd. And then you concluded that chapter by giving practical ways, 5 ways by which each person can create their own reality. That is it. We've gotten chapter 1 already. Now let's go to let's take chapter 2. By the way, is this clear? Is it easy to understand?
Yeah, we try like give it a background about the problem and then like the solution.
Good. So when you are writing, let's say for example, let's break this your chapter 1 into subtitles now. Okay. So we can say the first thing is you or stop following the crowd. Let's say this would be first subtitle, stop following the crowd. You can change this, just an example. Number 2, you can say create your own reality. Chapter 3, practical ways
to start
creating your own reality. To start creating your own reality. So now we have 3 subtitles for you, which is what we already wrote about now in that synopsis. Yeah, so that is how you do it. Quite easy to do. So now we've written about these 3 things in that place that I talked about. The same thing you would do for chapter 2, taking control of your reality. So again, you write in this chapter, the author says, okay, now, even though you already said create your own reality here, in this second chapter, you can say that there are a lot of things that might compete or try to pull you away from your reality, but you have the ultimate control of your reality in chapter 2. And so you might want to talk about your association. You don't need to allow your association pull you away. Maybe you have some friends who want you to follow them somewhere or do something with them, but that is not your life. That is not your purpose. So you can talk about that in chapter 2, or you can even bring in the story of the pandemic that we talked about. Okay, so in this pandemic, the same circumstance happened to everybody, but each person created their own reality from the pandemic. They responded differently, to the pandemic. You can talk about that in chapter 2 also. So in chapter 2, you're talking about the power that each person has to control their life, their own destiny, and creating their own reality. Yeah, the same thing you can do for chapter 2.
And it's like the same process, right? I have to put some subtitles.
Yeah,
then
the same process. So the same thing we did for chapter 1, now you do for chapter 2. So if you come to chapter 2, you just bring this title. What is the title? Chapter 2, taking control of your reality. So you copy it and bring it here, chapter 2. And then you say something like, no one has control of your life as much as you do. Okay, you are the best driver of your destiny. Okay, whatever you allow in your life is what will happen in your life. In this chapter, the author says that everybody has the key to their destiny and everybody can determine the outcome of their life by taking control of their lives. Furthermore, the author said that the association we keep or the friends we keep goes a long way to, affect our destiny. And so it is important that we choose the right association. And then again, you could talk about in a separate chapter or in that same chapter 2, you could talk about the pandemic, how it started, how each person reacted to it. Yeah, and you can create a synopsis. So it doesn't have to be long, like I said. So something like this is good, very short, less than 1 page. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You have any question?
No. The other question that I have is that if could it be at the beginning like a phrase that I can start with a phrase?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, in the second chapter will be like you decide if you will have the control of your life, you're going to live another's
Yeah,
life. I don't know.
so let's hold that thought that you just said now. Let's take this chapter 2 and bring that word, like that thing you just said now. Let's bring it to chapter 2. So you want
I think you should do another person's.
Yeah, 1 minute. I just want to take that. I'm not going to finish it. I just want to write that free, that thing he just said now. So now say it again, what you said.
Yeah, that you decide if you are going to live your life.
Okay, you decide if you are going to live your life according to your own reality.
Yeah.
Or follow.
Or you will lives another one dreams
or follow the crowd. In life, the key to each person's destiny, is in his or her hands, and the direction they drive is up to them. For example, this is the subject of discussion in this, or in the second chapter, of this book. This is the subject of discussion. So what is the subject? This thing you wrote here now. This is the subject of discussion in the second chapter of this book. The author says blah, 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 like that. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. So that's how you do it. Now let's move to another person's book. Is Mrs. Choma still there? I saw that she was having a problem with the network, with the connection. If she's there, let's take her own. If she's not.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so let's take.
Yes, so I'm changing my topic. to something else for now.
Okay.
I'm going to work on how to successfully school a child in Nigeria.
How to successfully raise a child.
Homeschool
Say that
your
again.
child
Say that again. How to successfully unschool your child.
in Nigeria, yes.
Okay.
But I'm thinking this successfully. I don't know. I was discussing.
Okay.
Should it be there or should it go off?
But this title is long now, you know.
Yes, I know, but not on school, homeschool.
Oh, homeschool. Okay. I think maybe you want
Yes,
to
I know, but you gave us an example with how to
win friends and
win friends.
Yeah.
Yes, that was what I was thinking. I know.
Okay. Okay. How to successfully homeschool your child in Nigeria. Okay, good. Good. So let's take this as the title. What do you want to include in chapter 1?
Okay. In chapter 1, I'm going to look at the mindset of a homeschooler.
Okay. The mindset of a homeschooler, yeah?
Chapter 2, myths around homeschooling.
Myths.
Yes, myths or debunking myths around homeschooling.
Okay. Okay.
Then the chapter 3. Oh, okay, you're fine with these two, right?
No, add one if you can.
Okay, chapter 3 will be successful homeschoolers of our time.
Okay. Good. Successful homeschoolers of our time. Now, later I'm going to show you an app that we call, when I'm teaching you editing, I'm going to show you an app we call Grammarly that can help you correct your mistakes while you're writing. Okay.
Okay.
So this is chapter 1. Did you try to write a synopsis and it was difficult, right? I saw your comments on the.
It was difficult.
I understand. By the time you write 1, you write 2, you write 3, it will become.
Yes, but this explanation you're giving now is making everything clearer.
Good. Good. Chapter 3. Okay, so let's take this. I'm going to start with chapter 1. Bring this, make it smaller. Okay. So let's take chapter 1, the mindset of a home schooler. Good. Take this to a separate page. Okay, so let's start like this. So in chapter 1, you want to talk to parents.
Okay, do you want me to help you? You want me to help you with that?
Okay, you can.
Okay, no, just to give you an idea. Okay, so down here, before now, people didn't know anything about homeschooling.
Okay.
You know, people just don't understand what it is. But right now, with the situation of the world, everybody is at home, or most people are home now, and people are beginning to they are forced to do it. You know, even though they are doing it in different ways. So this is about the mindset, you know, having a change in your attitude to homeschooling. Okay, because we actually homeschool our kids. We've been homeschooling our kids for the past 4 years now. And then when we meet people and we tell them, they look at us as if we're crazy, you know, what are you guys doing? But right now it's like everybody is coming into that world and, you know, they're really struggling in that area. So we want to use that experience to help people to embrace this thing and see it as part of life. Yes.
Great. So over the years, the world has known only one method. For example, only one method of schooling children. Many people all through their years or all through their childhood only went to just for example, a physical school in order to learn about the basic principles or subjects of life, for example. However, the pandemic has created a situation in which traditional schooling methods are no longer feasible. Most parents are confused as to what next to do to help their kids continue learning. In this chapter, the author explains that homeschooling is the only way. Okay, first of all, the author explains that homeschooling is not as difficult as most people think. She argues that with proper training and enlightenment, every parent can homeschool their children or homeschool their child. We'll correct all of this later. Anywhere you see that I use a past tense instead of present tense or third person present tense, draw my attention to it, okay? Good. She further states that for the past blah, blah, blah years, she has practiced the principles of homeschooling and encourages parents, she has practiced the principle of homeschooling and listed the benefits that one could get by adopting this method of schooling. In closing this chapter, the author listed a few methods that could help parents change their mindsets and cultivate change their mindset and start practicing homeschooling. Okay, so in closing this chapter, the author listed a few methods that could help parents change their mindsets and start practicing home schooling. We're done with the first one. So it depends on what you have in your mind that you want to write about, but this is just how you write it. So you've talked about, give a little background that all through the years, we've been used to the traditional method of schooling where we go to a physical location. But now, because of the pandemic, it has become necessary to adopt another method of schooling, which is homeschooling. And you have given an example using yourself that you have used this method and it has become very productive for you. And in closing the chapter, you listed a few methods that could help or principles that could help parents change their mindset and start practicing homeschooling. That is, we are done with chapter 1 synopsis. Is it clear, or ask a question?
Clear. This is clear.
It's clear. Okay, good. So the same thing you can do, right? You go to chapter 2, myths about homeschooling. So in chapter 2, the author tries to debunk the several myths that surround homeschooling. Most people have thought over the years that homeschooling is a very difficult thing and that children will not be able to learn unless they go to a traditional school where they could meet with other children. And so you now give a reason why you think that is a myth, that you have tried it and you could actually debunk that myth. Secondly, people believe that homeschooling will cause this and cause that. But from your experience and from other people's experience, you could see that with remote learning, every child can, learn under a conducive environment with the aid of the laptop or a computer. They can learn. So just like that, somebody wrote something. Let me see. Excellent topic. Okay, good. Yeah, so the same thing you can do, just debunk the myth in your chapter 2. You are okay, let's break this. Let's break this into subtitles. Do you have subtitles already, or we should try to just create something just for the sake of this synopsis? You could change it later.
Yeah, you can create something.
Okay, so let's try to create something. So the mindset of a home schooler. This is chapter 1. Now we can say something like traditional schooling methods. Traditional schooling methods. So here you talk about how a little history of how everybody went to a physical school to learn. Chapter 2, the need for homeschooling. Now there is a need for homeschooling because there is a pandemic and nobody can go to a physical school anymore. Chapter 3, the principles of homeschooling. Or you can change this one, since you're talking about the mindset of a homeschooler, right? You can put one title that talks about a change of, one subtitle that talks about a change of mindset. Now, when I start teaching you how to write each chapter, one thing you need to know is that when you're writing a book, whatever your chapter is, for example, the mindset of a homeschooler, everything you're going to write here under these subtitles, everything you're going to write under these subtitles, you must relate it back to the title of that chapter. So even though you're talking about traditional schooling methods, at some point you must include that even though traditional schooling method is good, right, it is necessary that with the current situation that we have now, that there is a change of mindset. Or you could talk about that most people do not believe in homeschooling, but the point is that whatever you are writing, you must relate it back. It must reflect the title that you have up here. For example, if I say, let's say I want to talk about, I want to say something about becoming a basketball player, right? let's say I have a child who is a basketball player. I cannot put that subtitle under this chapter 1 because nothing concerns basketball playing with the title of this chapter. So the point is that anything you write about in the subtitle, when you are explaining, try to relate it back to the title so that it doesn't become abstract or out of point for that chapter. I don't know if that is clear. Did I confuse anybody? Is it clear?
It's clear.
Okay, good. Yeah, so maybe we can, if there's no other question from Mrs. Choma, we can take another person's title. So let's take my wife's title. Let's take.
No, do Pastor Niron.
Pastor Niron is still there. Ah, I thought he would have. Okay. So Pastor Niron, let's do yours. Because
Yes, so I'm here.
We spoke during the week. I thought he would not be able to stay for 2 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's 1 minute, guys. 1 minute. Let me check my calendar. 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Let me see. I'm supposed to have one meeting, but check if that's okay. Sharing screen. I need to stop sharing. Just give me 1 minute, okay? I want to confirm something. I was supposed to have a meeting, but I'm not sure if it is now. So let me just confirm the time. So Pastor Niron, tell us your topic again.
Rising above mediocrity.
Above mediocrity. Okay, good. Do you have what you want to write in the chapter 1 already?
Yes. It's going to be the first chapter will be what is mediocrity.
What is mediocrity? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Chapter 2.
Second chapter. The dangers of living a mediocrity life.
Okay. The dangers of living a life of mediocrity. The dangers of living a life of mediocrity. So give me 1 minute. I'll get to it. I'm going to write something. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm free till 12 o'clock. Yeah, I'm free. So let's do this for maybe another 30 minutes. Okay, so the dangers of, let me share my screen again. I was writing here. Okay, good. So let me write your title. You said the title is what? Is it living above mediocrity?
Rising above mediocrity.
Rising above mediocrity. Rising above mediocrity. Good. So you said chapter 1 is what is mediocrity?
What is mediocrity? Yeah.
What is mediocrity? Chapter 2.
The dangers of living in mediocrity.
The dangers of living a life of mediocrity. 1 minute. Dangers of living a life of mediocrity. Dangers of living a life of mediocrity. Okay. Now chapter 3.
Chapter 3, what the world system has reduced you to.
Okay. I'm going to call that the influence of the world system.
Yeah.
Just for the purpose of the synopsis, the influence of the world system. Okay, good. Let's work with this. 1 minute. Okay. So let's take chapter 1. What is mediocrity? So here you just want to define, well, I'll give you an advice. Just an advice.
Yeah.
If the title of chapter 1 is what is mediocrity, it means you are going to take 5 pages or 10 pages just to define mediocrity. which
Yeah.
might not be feasible. It might not make sense, right? So there's a possibility of changing the title from. So this what is mediocrity can be the subtitle. Let's say we call this living a life of mediocrity, for example.
Okay.
Living a life of mediocrity. So the first subtitle will not be what is mediocrity. So you just use one small paragraph to define it.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
living a life of mediocrity. What is mediocrity? Let's put one other subtitle here. What separates the great from the mediocre? What separates the great from the mediocre, just for example, or what separates the successful from the mediocre? Okay, so let's go. Now, living a life of mediocrity, chapter 1. It is not, okay, let me use this word. It is no news that our world is made up of successful and mediocre people, great. Okay, let me use this word instead of successful and mediocre people. Successful and unsuccessful people, for example, great and mediocre people, great and mediocre people, and it is not new that our world is made up of successful and unsuccessful people, great and mediocre people. Or let's just take one. Let me use successful and mediocre people so that it will be easier for us. And mediocre people. It is not new that our world is made up of successful and mediocre people. Everywhere you look or you turn, you would see people who are living their best lives and those who are living in mediocrity. In this chapter, the author defines what mediocrity is and explains. The author defines what mediocrity is and explains why some people live in mediocrity while others live in great success. It is not new that our world is made up of successful and mediocre people. Everywhere you look, you would see people who are living their best lives and those who are living in mediocrity. In this chapter, the author defines what mediocrity is and explains why some people live in mediocrity while others live in great success. He argues that what separates successful people from mediocre people is not race, place of birth, religious affiliation, or anything else that you could think about. or anything else that people generally, he argues that what separates successful people from mediocre people is not race, place of birth, religious affiliation, or anything else that people generally think about or that people generally blame for their mediocrity. People generally blame for their mediocrity. He further states, that the main difference between successful and mediocre people is blah 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 blah. So it depends on what you want to focus on. Are you talking about hard work, or are you talking about time management? Are you talking about their association? Are you talking about their mindset? So you now see that he further states that the main difference between successful people and mediocre people is maybe knowledge, for example, association, or hard work. So whatever it is you want to talk about in that chapter as the main difference between successful and failures, you put it there. In bringing this chapter to a close, the author states that if we want to live or rise above mediocrity, we must apply the following principles to our lives. So you list the principles, or instead of listing the principles in your synopsis, you could say the author states that if we want to live or rise above mediocrity, there are certain principles that we must obey. He listed these principles in the closing chapter of this book, and you're done with chapter 1. So you can play with it anyhow you want, but the idea is just to know the pattern of how to write it. Okay. Is it clear, sir?
Oh yeah, it's very clear. Thank you so much.
Great. You're welcome. So for Felipe, Tired Sunset. Are you there?
Yeah, teacher, I'm here.
You're here. Okay.
Yeah, I actually sent you
you sent me a file, right?
Yeah, it's a file, but it's not a synopsis. It's just like the main idea that I have for the synopsis.
Okay.
Again, it doesn't have like a structure. It's just like the main idea.
Okay.
If you want to open the file so we can...
You sent me on Skype, right?
Yeah, on Skype. Okay. It's just like the foundation of the story, or like, and now that Raul is here, I don't know if he's here, he's going to notice that probably I'm like mirroring myself in this story. I'm like creating the story for me with a different person. It's going to be mine is going to be a novel, so I just created like a foundation for the first chapter.
Okay.
And like for the whole story itself. That's like like the main like the main character and the main idea for the story.
Okay. You wrote this before this class started, right?
Yeah, like I think like yesterday.
Okay, so it's possible you might not have applied
What happened?
the route I taught today. 1 minute. Could you mute yourself if you are not the one talking, please? Okay, good. Thank you. So Felipe, you said you sent me something. Let me see. So you might need to rewrite your synopsis, applying what I taught today, but let's just check it. Or if you have your computer, then maybe you could share your screen. I could allow you to share screen. Okay, let me see.
I don't know. I don't know if I can share my screen and maybe we can analyze like the story. Again, it's just like the foundation. I really don't have anything. I
Okay.
didn't start the synopsis
Okay,
because
good.
I had like
Let's see.
some doubts and like other things. So let me share my screen. I think that you need to allow me.
Okay, 1 minute. I think I have it. I have it here now. It just opened. Just that my computer is a bit slow.
Yep.
Open. Let's see. Okay, good. Chapter 1, Icaria.
Like a little remark.
Okay.
This is just like the foundation of the story. It's not like a synopsis. It's just
Okay.
like what I think that is going to be the story.
Okay.
So I'm like, it's just like a resume of the story.
How many pages is it?
To express about my main character.
Okay.
And like, yeah, that's it. That's like the main problem actually. But I don't know how to write, like, for example, like the synopsis itself. It's
Okay.
like complicated for.
Okay, so this is your story is about Icaria, right?
Yeah, Icaria is the main character.
Okay.
So this is the character Icaria. Yeah.
Okay, good. So
Icaria.
Icaria, like I told you, when you're writing your
Yeah.
synopsis, don't use chapters, okay? Don't put chapter
Yeah.
1 or chapter 2,
Okay.
just paragraph. And with the rule I gave, you need to first say that. But what is the title of the book? Tired Sunset. So you say Tired Sunset is a novel, right? Or a romantic novel, or whatever it is, about a young lady called Icaria. Before you now say she's
Icaria,
before you now say she's as normal as any other teenager, but she's afraid about the challenges that are about to come. Okay, full stop. She's facing a crude reality in which she only wants to live in a moment, but at the same time, she wants to succeed. Pressure and challenges seem to be exaggerated, but is the only escape route in order to, but something is missing here. Okay, but something is the only escape route in order to fulfill her life's purpose or her destiny or something. She's not realistic at the moment, idealistic, and probably she's wasting part of her life. Very important one, her youth. That is why the tired sunset only represents how days become routine and she becomes tired of trying to force herself even further than she can. I haven't lived enough, but I feel that life has something special for me, Icaria. The tired sunsets and the tired people, it takes a lifetime to die and no time at all. So this is the quote, right?
Yeah, that's the quote that inspired me to start the book.
Who is the name of the person that has this quote?
Let me look. It's like Charles. His name is.
So you have to include it, okay? You must include.
Yeah, I have to include it. I was just giving you the details of the story, and then I wrote something that I created.
Okay.
Like, make every single moment count before time counts it back.
Okay, and you put your name here, right?
Yeah.
So one of the rules, everybody pay attention to this, right? One of the rules, I'm going to teach you later when I teach you how to get quotes. You cannot quote yourself in your book.
Okay. Yeah.
Basic rule. Everybody understand that you cannot quote yourself in your book. Instead, this would be an idea. You could say something like, I believe, or as I always say. You could say something like, as I always say, make every single moment count before time counts it back. But that would be a continuation. It would be like a continuation of the book, but not as a quote, because you cannot quote yourself in a book. You quote other people. While if I'm writing my book, I can quote you. I can quote Choma. I can quote Topsy Gibbs. I can quote anybody, but I cannot quote myself in my own book. So that is the rule, both for fiction and non-fiction. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So
now
go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, for example, it's not like a romantic novel. It's not any. I mean, what I want to express, like, that we have, for example, as teenagers.
Yeah.
In my case, and Raul's knows about this. Like sometimes, for example, I want to, I want to be successful,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I'm like wasting my youth. I don't know if you get my point. So I think
Okay.
it's a very important topic in this case, like, trying to explain how important it is to become a successful person, but at the same time that you are not really enjoying your life. So that's like the main topic of my book. So I really don't know how to start. I wrote this like I think it was on Wednesday,
Okay.
but I didn't know. For example, the quotes, it was just like inspiration for me
Yeah.
to continue. As I told you, the second quote is the quote that I wanted to use at the beginning of the book
Yeah.
because it represents something important for me. First of all, it represents like, you have a whole lifetime to
Yeah.
do whatever you want, but at the same time, you are not doing anything with your time. So
Yeah.
it's important and it's worth to know that you have to do something with it. So with my novel, what I want to express is that, from my perspective, and I told you about this, I was speaking with my grandfather
Yeah.
and I told him that I haven't lived 1/4 of his life.
Yeah.
So for me, it's important that, from a teenager perspective,
Yeah.
you really don't know anything about life, but at the same time, you know everything because you really want to do something with your life. So that's like the main explanation of my story at all.
Good.
Yeah,
Very good. And you are using a carrier as a main character.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. A carrier is going to be my main character.
Okay.
It has an explanation. There is an island in Greece, which is so beautiful, which name is Icaria. But
Okay.
that has another explanation. But Icaria sounds like beautiful. Actually, yeah, it's a beautiful name. And again, I am trying to mirror my own life with
Okay.
another character. And probably Raul, that he's like my best friend. He
Yeah.
knows better than me. I think that that he has another perspective of my life. So he knows that, sometimes I am obsessive with some things and whatever. But that's like the point that I want to give with my novel, to express like when you are young, you really don't understand anything about life, but at the same time, you understand everything because like it's going to become part of your future.
Good.
Yes, like a little bit
Good. So
difficult to express.
good. Yeah, I understand. So the first assignment or the first thing you need to do is
Yeah,
to break this whole story,
yeah.
okay, into chapters.
All right.
Do you want to put in chapter one? What do
Yeah,
you want to put in chapter two, chapter
yeah,
three, like that? So it makes it easier. Now the story is looking very big and scattered, like you don't know exactly what to write. But once you are able to decide on what to be in chapter one, for example,
yeah,
maybe you want to tell us about a careers, a little bit about her upbringing, if you want, maybe
yeah,
the family she was born into, how many siblings she has. Since your book is a story, the novel, how many siblings she has, where she grew up, the environment where she grew up. You could put that introduction kind of in the chapter one of the book if you want.
yeah,
Oh, and then maybe in chapter two, you want to talk about her life as a teenager. Now that she's a teenager, she has a purpose, she has a goal, or she has a destiny that she wants to achieve. But at the moment, she's not living that life. So you want to tell us what is it that is taking her attention? What is preventing her from living that life that she wants to live? So you want to tell that story, in maybe in chapter two, what is preventing her from. So chapter two,
yeah.
3, 4. I don't know how many chapters you want to write in the novel, but what you would do to make it easier for you, since yours is a story,
Yeah.
do an audio recording. Just tell
All
the
right.
story and record it. Okay? Tell the
Okay.
story of a carrier's life, everything you want to put
All
in the
right.
book and record it. Then transcribe that audio recording to MS Word format. Break a part of the story and put it in chapter one. Break another part and put it in chapter two. Like that. Since this is a story, only the
Yeah.
author has the picture of the kind of story, how he or she wants the story to go. It's different from non-fiction writing, where I can just give an idea or give my opinion about a topic.
Yeah.
But since this is a story, you know the picture of that story. Okay. So I will only tell you, first of all, divide that story in your mind, divide it into maybe 10 chapters or 5 chapters, okay? It depends on you. And then you can now gradually write on each of them one after the other. So now I'm not even concerned about your synopsis.
Okay.
Your synopsis will be very easy to write. Following the example that I gave, the story we read about those people that got married, you can use that pattern to write your synopsis. Talk about the life of a carrier, and then talk about the conflict that happened in the carrier's life, and then talk about what happened to escalate the conflict, the rising action, and the climax, falling action, and the resolution. For your synopsis, that will be easy to do. Just follow that pattern, you know.
Yeah.
But the main thing is writing the chapter. In our next lesson, I'm going to be teaching how to write introduction and table of contents. And then after that class, we'll move to how to write the chapter 1. So in that class, we will read your chapter 1. After I teach how to write chapter 1, you'll go and write your chapter 1. We will read it and see if we need to move some part of the story to another part, like that. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yes. So don't worry, we will, during the week, we will talk privately about how to go about your story. We might not be able to do it here because I need to go into your mind and get the picture of the kind of story that you want to build.
Okay, teacher. Sure.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, but this is good. This one that you've written here is good. I get the picture. It's about fulfilling her life. She wants to fulfill her life, but it seems like she's currently wasting a part of her life. Maybe friends are dragging her.
Yeah.
She's following the crowd. She does not understand the importance of her time, and so all of those things we'll talk about during the week, you and I.
Yeah, teacher. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Topsy Gift, are we doing yours? Are you ready?
I think I can let it go because of time.
Okay. Or maybe we'll do that privately.
Okay.
Okay,
great.
Thank you. Okay, so everybody, don't forget the rules. I have given you examples. I'm expecting within the week to receive your synopsis complete. If you're writing 10 chapters, I want to see the 10 chapters of the synopsis sent to me. Don't be afraid, just write. We will correct your mistakes here, in our next class. So in the next class, I will teach how to write introduction and the table of content. Let me see, somebody's writing something. Yes, you will get this video hopefully tomorrow. If I'm able to upload it tonight on YouTube, you will get it tonight or tomorrow. Maybe not tonight because it's late already. Tomorrow you will get it. Okay, you'll get it tomorrow so that you can watch it again, use it to write your own. And I want to receive your synopsis latest on Saturday. I want to get the synopsis. Yeah, so that will be, if today's class was enlightening for you, if it was educative, just drop a 1 in the chat. And when we're done, go to the general group and talk about how much you learned from this class today, and let people know that we are making progress. And I would like to encourage you also, if you see the poster, the advert that I did for batch B, do well to share it. You can put it on your wall also. And if you know anybody you think should join batch B, very important. You know what you're learning. If you know anybody you think should learn this type of thing, tell them to register for the batch B. We'll be starting batch B on the 13th of February. Okay, so it will run concurrently with batch A, but we will meet earlier in the afternoon, and then with batch B, with batch A, we will meet the same time that we'll be meeting. So everybody, thank you so so much. I was wondering if you can give me access to Google Classroom. Yes, Raul. Once I write something on Google, I already added your email. So if I post something on Google Classroom now, you'll get an email that I posted something on Google Classroom. Or if you check the page I added you, the messenger page I added you to, just scroll up a little. Scroll up a little, you will see the code to enter the Google Classroom. Well, I'm going to share it again. Mrs. Choma said, yes, please, I want to put your advert on my blog so I can advertise it on all my platforms. Thank you so much. Yes, please, you can go, be free to use the pictures. And everybody thank Felipe. Felipe was the one that designed that beautiful poster. About 3 of them he's done. You know, thank you so much, Felipe, for designing those.
Thank you, Felipe.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure, teacher.
Yeah. And he's going to design more. So we want to saturate the internet with those posters before the 13th of February. I already have about 8 people that are interested in batch B, you know. So tell as many people that you know that they can join the batch B course starting in February. So everybody, thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you today. I look forward to seeing you next week. Do have a beautiful week ahead. Thank you. See you.
Thank you, teacher. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, teacher. See you.
Thank you.